W News Weather Watch. Again, keep that umbrella handy. There are scattered thunder showers around South Florida at this hour. Cooling things off in some areas, but not very much. It's 82 degrees at Miami Beach. It's 86 in Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and Margate. A warmer 88 degrees at West Palm Beach and Palm Beach Gardens. Relative humidity is still there at 70%. I'm Tom Schaefer. I'll return at 4:30, at which time we'll update all of the news that has transpired throughout the afternoon. In the meantime, let us all enjoy Stan Major Part 1.
Well, Anita, I told you these mixed marriages would never work out. Good afternoon. We're going to hold forth with an open forum from now until about 4:20 this afternoon on Stan Major Part 1. Our telephone numbers in Miami and Dade County are 667-9697. For those of you in South Broward and North Dade, 922-9697. And in North Broward, 427-7979. To the editor of the Miami Herald, for the first time in my life, I know how the readers of the Russian news agency TASS must feel. The Herald's attack on WNWS in connection with the refugee situation only convinced me more. The Herald prints what it would like us to believe, not what really happens. There is a severe credibility gap, and the paper's integrity leaves a lot to be desired. And this letter to the editor, which appeared in this morning's Miami Herald, is signed by Joseph Goodwin of Pembroke Pines. Thank you very much, Mr. Goodwin. The Herald manages the news. Somewhere in today's Herald, for the second day in a row, they give you figures on the number of new Cubans that have settled in Miami. The figure is now over 25,000. They won't make a big deal about it, but I guess they feel because of the heat Stan Major has put on them lately that they should inform the people who are tax-paying people here in Miami and Dade County just how much support you're giving to people and where they are ending up. We have 70,000 refugees and counting, and well over 25,000 are now in the Miami area, and most of the other refugees would like to come to Miami. Let's face it, it's cold up there in Indian Gap, Pennsylvania. And, well, what more can I say? I've been harping on this thing for I don't know how long, and all the good it does is the Miami Herald condescends to put toward the tail end of their Cuban refugee story in the last couple of days the number of Cubans who have settled in Miami. I happened to have business up in Hollywood late this morning, and on the way back I decided that I would get off the expressways and go through Liberty City. And I drove through areas of Liberty City, and to my surprise, the burning and arson seemed to be even more selective than I had anticipated. It was amazing to me that you could go for a couple of blocks, for instance, on 7th Northwest, and only one large store would be burned. You could go for another block, and maybe there would be another store that was torched. That isn't like 1967 and 68 when they tried to burn down the whole ghetto. Now, I did not take a complete tour of the riot area in Liberty City, but what I did see fascinates me. It's a terrible thing, but I just wonder how that can happen, where there can simply be one store torched. for blocks at a time. It's very interesting. Obviously, nobody was trying to burn down Liberty City. And nobody was trying to torch whole blocks at a time. I hope things are cool over the weekend. We're going to take a commercial break here, and when we come back, we'll go right to your telephone calls, your comments on an open forum. Please be brief. A lot of people are trying to get in on this program because it is a very popular program. It is the talk not only of South Florida, but the talk of the nation to a certain extent, with all the national publicity we're getting because of the refugee situation and the riot situation. So please be brief. Discuss a single subject, and then we will move on to somebody else. If your call detracts from the program, I reserve the right to zip you off with my fast finger. And we'll be right back on W News Miami. Okay, let's continue with your calls, comments, your views, and opinions on an open forum with Stan Major, the nice guy on the radio. This evening from 6 until 7, my guest will be Dr. Saul Gordon, one of the leading authorities on adolescent sexuality, who is here for a seminar over the weekend. And we will, of course, have baseball tonight beginning at 7:15, weather permitting. And it looks pretty good out there right now, but you never know in Miami. Hello?
Hello?
Mm-hmm.
Major?
Mm-hmm.
Hi. I'm calling regarding that lady that just called a little while ago blaming the Cubans for that Catholic tuition increase on the schools. Well, I think she's contradicting herself when she talked, because she said, first of all, they were collecting money for the Cubans, refugees. I'm a Cuban myself. I've been here 20 years. And I've raised my kids here, and, I mean, you know, I've been here for a long time, and I've seen the evolution of Dade County in the past 2 decades. Now, she was saying that they were collecting money for the Negroes down in the Liberty City area.
No, she said that they were collecting money for the Cuban refugees and the Haitian refugees. They were collecting food for those in the riot area.
Okay, now, she was saying they were collecting, they don't need food, they need jobs. But she, you know, what she's trying to, right now, they need anything they can get because they have destroyed their place down there. Or in the commentary, I heard you talking, there were some in certain amount of businesses of white people that were destroyed and others weren't. So what they need is anything they can get now, because it's supposed to be a disaster area down here. I'm not for her saying that the tuitions and the Catholics, you know, she's a Catholic herself and sending her kids to school. There's plenty of public good schools down here that she can send them, which my kids are going to. I don't see why she's raving about it. She doesn't have to give any money. I don't understand the whole point that she's trying to make, because she said the Haitians. If she thinks that they're not taking care of the black people down here, why should she be against the Haitians coming down here to the United States? They're black. So if she, you know, she's so for it to give Liberty City some money or jobs or whatever, why is she against it? She was contradicting herself. I don't understand what point she's trying to make, you know, blaming it on the Cubans. And that's true. They have collected a lot of money, like you said. And they should go down there to the whatever bank. They have the money and tell the Pope or whoever to take the money out of the bank and give it to the Cubans. I'm all for it. You know, they collected a milestone on Channel 23, I think close to $2 million. And we're not asking any Americans to give us a handout. I think if the Cubans are down...
Well, you are getting a handout. You're getting $20 million so far, $21 million.
From who?
From the United States government, my dear.
Who have they given it to? Because
that is the cost. The federal government has assumed the cost as of about 2 weeks ago of the refugee influx. That's all the processing, the payrolls, the cash that's given, the food stamps, etc. That's all federal money.
The food stamps, because they have been claiming or on the Cuban stations calling everybody to donate food and milk and this and that. And every Cuban, I think, has done their share of going down there and taking them.
Well, I'm sure doing my share when I give them $21 million of my federal tax
money.
Well,
so am I. You know, so am I giving it. I'm not giving it to the black people.
And I'm not very happy about it, lady, because 25,000 Cubans have settled in Miami. Does that make you happy?
Well, I certainly don't think that
Are you happy about 25,000 new foreigners in your midst here in Miami?
Well, not in Miami. I don't think, you know, they could be spread out all over the place. If they want liberty, they can get it any place else.
Well, that's wonderful for you to say that, and that's wonderful for Archbishop McCarthy to say in U.S. News and World Report that 70% of the incoming Cubans are going to be resettled out of South Florida. Well, it's a fallacy. It's not happening. 40 to 45% of them are coming to Miami to live with relatives.
Well, if they have the relatives, they can take care of the burden. They can sure make, pay for the ways and everything they have down here. Government doesn't have to give them any money. So what's the burden?
Who's getting the $21 million then?
Well, that's what I want to know. Who's getting them? Like, I'm paying now this area, the federal...
Yeah, I get a little fed up with you Cubans calling in, telling me about how the relatives are going to take care of this and that, and how all the wonderful charitable donations have been made and everything. And yet, before my very eyes on television, I see federal cash being handed out to the tune of $112. Initially, it was two $200 bills, I understand. I get a little fed up with your fallacies about how great the exiled community is supporting all of these people when it is not supporting them. They are not paying for the... Wait a minute, lady. They are not paying for the Fort Chaffee, for Eglin Air Force Base, for Indian Gap, Pennsylvania. I'm paying for that. You're paying for that.
Why?
That's not charity, lady. That's U.S. Treasury money.
Well, so? This is a country that was made up of foreigners. I mean, who's really a true American here? The Indians?
That is the old standby for the American-hating Cubans to call in on this show and say the only people that deserve anything here are Indians. You want to go back into your Cuban history a little bit, lady? Do you know that you're not even a real Cuban and your ancestors weren't 100% Cuban? You want to go back into that history? I mean, if you want to play the history games with me, we'll play it with your homeland of Cuba. All right? What did your ancestors do when they landed in Cuba? They did the same thing my ancestors did when they landed in Boston. They massacred the natives, lady.
Landed here in the United States. They didn't go.
Yeah, well, let's just open up our door. Let's take 7 million Cubans in, and let's just plant them all right here in Miami. Then you can forget the English language, because you will undoubtedly be delighted to change this into a Spanish language county, and it will be called Havana North. That's exactly what you want, right, lady? Why don't you admit it to the thousands of Anglos that are listening to you?
Well, would you like to change it to Hebrew? I mean, it is up to you, whatever you want. If you want the Hebrews to come down here, the Jews, let them come down here. We're not fighting against anybody who comes down here and start building up Miami or Dade County or Florida. We're not going to be against that either. So what's the point? Instead of constructing, you are disrupting everything that people do.
Oh, I'm disrupting. The 25,000 you foreigners in Miami are not creating disruption. Stan Major's creating disruption. You sound like Archbishop McCarthy in U.S. News and World Report, blaming the whole divisiveness on a couple of strident talk show hosts.
You criticize everybody that comes down here. You criticize everybody does. The police department. I mean, who are you really with? Yourself?
Asinine generalities. You have never listened to me at all, or you wouldn't make those asinine generalities.
Put up with all the stuff you say. I mean, this is unbelievable. I don't believe that any human being, just to build up a talk show, could be so...
I don't have to build up my talk show, lady. I have tremendous ratings. I am very successful at what I do. I don't have to go out of my way or say anything to build my ratings. I just sit here and tell the truth. And, boy, does it upset you, huh?
It doesn't upset me at all.
Oh, well, why are you carrying on then?
So why I'm calling? Because I figure that the only person you care about is yourself. You don't give a damn about the Negroes. You don't give a damn about the Cubans. You don't give a damn about anybody. What are you talking about? It's only Stan Majors.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're getting a real dose of capital C Cuban, small a parentheses, little American here. Lay it on me, lady. Come on. We're waiting. Of course, that's not divisiveness. That lady, who, as I say, is Cuban first and could care less about the United States of America. I don't care how long she's been here, she's still a guest here in our country, waiting to go back, which will never happen unless she goes back for a visit. Castro could be gone tomorrow, and that kind of broad is typical of the kind that would go back for a couple of weeks and say, boy, this place stinks, I'm going back home to Miami and make my money and have my nice cars and have my cassette recorders and my stereos and all those fashion jeans and all those nice things that they can get here and can't get in Havana. But she would never admit it. And the sad thing about it, ladies and gentlemen, is there are literally thousands of Cubans, capital C, Americans, parentheses, small a, who are just like her. And that is the sad part of it. We welcomed them with open arms after the Bay of Pigs because we had guilt feelings, and now what do? They become successful off our country, off our land, off our capitalistic system, and they call in and they want to lambaste me for having the unmitigated gall to tell you the truth. We'll take another commercial break and we'll be right back on Stan Major, the nice guy on the radio on W News Miami. All right, let's continue with your calls. Hello.
Hi, Stan.
Mm-hmm.
I have 3 points I'd like to make. One is I would like to commend the police department. I think that any policeman that was on duty over the weekend deserves a gold medal. However, the offenders, the 5 that were accused of vandalism or whatever, I do not think they should be kept on the police force. I think their behavior was very inappropriate. And I think if you keep them on the police force and you get them in another stress situation, you're just inviting another McDuffie case. You could give them a job somewhere else so they wouldn't be out of a job, but to keep them on the police force I think is wrong. Also, I don't see why the taxpayers should have to pay for their misdeeds. I wouldn't, if you divide 5 policemen into 14 cars, I think they should pay their own repairs on those cars. Maybe that would be some punishment and a reminder to them not to misbehave again. That's my first point. The second point I wish to make is somehow we have to get organized. They're talking about an election for the bilingualism, an election to get rid of Mayor Ferre, and every time we have a special election down here, it's $500,000, just like the stupid smoking election. And if they could just get all these things on one ballot, then they might get a better voter turnout.
Okay, thank you very much for your call. Stan Major.
Hi, Stan.
Yes, sir.
First of all, the lady just before this one, you were a little bit easy on her. I wish you'd have called Neil. You left her say quite a few things that, aren't right.
About what, sir?
She was a typical American the Cuban lady that was saying about
I think I held my own with that lady. I wanted to give people out there an opportunity to hear a real American-hating Cuban, and they heard it.
You did, and we appreciate it. But
all right.
My main reason for calling, Stan, you didn't listen to Al this morning, did you?
No, sir. I don't listen to the other talk shows here.
Oh, well, anyway, that's where the news first came in, and about Governor Graham making the remark that the sales tax in Dade alone, in only Dade County, would go from 4 to 5% if he had anything to do about it, and this is the fact. So the gentleman is correct that we talked to you about it, but it will be quite a while, I believe, until he can get it through, if he ever gets it through. But as you were saying, it has to be tested for constitutionality, and Al really gave it to the governor about that suggestion. He even gave him the raspberries. I'm speaking the truth, Stan.
Well, congratulations to Al. Thank you very much for your call, sir. It's 3 minutes after 3 on WNWS, South Miami, Miami. Hello.
Yes, Stan. One of the problems has been brought up is the lack of jobs for the minorities, especially the blacks. And, of course, unemployment is rising all the time. So it seems like there is going to be quite a problem of trying to employ the people that need jobs. Now, in this country, we have a lot of people that have a guaranteed income. I'm saying people on Social Security, welfare, and so forth. But there is a segment of our society that has no guarantee. They either have to live with a relative, they have to either marry someone, get them pregnant, get on welfare, or live with someone. And I'm talking mainly about the young males that are over the age of 18. They have no income at all, so the only income they can go toward is either crime, dope, prostitution, whatever. Humphrey Hawkins bill sponsored that would give a guaranteed income to people unable to find employment. I think that one of the things that detract from people becoming, destroying their neighborhoods or whatever, is the fact that when they can be employed gainfully and start owning and get some respect, then they don't destroy. And I think that there's not only the blacks but white. We have a lot of young white males. They can't find work, and they need an income. And through that proposal, I think it's really something that Congress has to act upon, because no matter what, when you get 200 million people in our nation, plus additional people coming in, you're going to have a large segment of our society that can't find work, no matter how hard they try. They have to be employed.
Let me ask you something. I had a meeting today with a person who runs a business in Hollywood, and the man cannot find help in his business.
Okay, basically, is it skilled or unskilled help?
It's unskilled help.
Unskilled help. Well,
pretty good paying job for somebody who wants to stick to the job and not just work a week or two, get some money in his pocket, and then quit.
I have employed people from up north, primarily more so than down here, and I know that when I run ads and trying to give the jobs, we have a very lack of response to the ads, which we were willing to train people.
Well, doesn't this contradict the Humphrey Hawkins attitude?
Yes or no, but regardless of regardless of that, you still have people that have to have an income.
I'm sorry. I think that this country is big enough, my friend, that if somebody wants to go to work, I think they can find a job.
I believe that you can overcome.
And I'm getting a little tired of people who want to give away my money. They're giving away $21 million of my money to a bunch of foreigners right now that have no business in this area, and we will probably exceed 100,000 Cuban foreigners coming in here, taking our tax dollars, taking it out of another refugee fund, the African Refugee Fund. We don't know whether that's going to be replenished or not. And it just isn't fair to the people in this country right now who are seeing inflation eat up their savings accounts, who are seeing not enough money in Social Security, who are seeing that they are not going to be able to make it.
Well, CBS had a report last night, and some stats brought out that there are 800,000 Cubans in the United States, and it was brought out also that on the average of $4,000 a year being paid in taxes of all types by these people, which is adding up to $3 billion. So they too.
Well, listen, if you want to carry that through, then let's open our doors to all refugees from anywhere. And golly, we can triple and double that, fella.
Right now,
is that what you want? Is that what you want? You want triple and double tax income? You want more Americans out of work and unemployed? Did they mention the unemployment factor in that?
I don't know if they mentioned.
Of course they did
factor,
not.
no.
Of course they did not.
1 out of 200 people, then, 1 out of 250 people in this country now are evidently Cuban, right? Now, that doesn't even count the Mexicans here in this country. So, you see, now they got a greater political base here.
They don't have any political base. They don't have any political base, my friend. They're so factionalized here, they can't even get one public official elected.
Miami. I'm talking about the whole country as a whole. You got Mexican who number into the millions in this country.
Well, now you're talking about an entirely different thing when you're talking about Mexicans.
Right.
You tell me that the Cubans have a political base. I challenge that. That's wrong, too. About everything coming out of your mouth has been wrong so far.
Well, that's a matter of opinion. That's a matter of opinion.
That's right.
Because basically...
You want to pay them a guaranteed income, huh? You want to pay them a guaranteed... You're willing to pay the increased taxes for the Humphrey Hawkins guaranteed income?
The blacks they cannot find job. Why should they be able to draw something? Why should a young man...
I just told you that there isn't a person in this country who, quote, can't find a job.
Baloney, man. They're 8% unemployment. You don't know what you're talking about.
Check your classified ads Sunday.
8%.
Go take a look at the Miami Herald classified ads Sunday, okay?
Skilled work.
All right?
Skilled work.
Goodbye. Jeez, how much money does this guy want us to pay out? My God, do you know I have to work for 4 months, a year, now? That guy must be making a tremendous amount of money. He must have a tremendous income. I don't. I'm middle income, folks, and I'm angry. I don't want to pay $21 million to Cubans. I don't want to pay a dime to a Cuban to come to this country. I want them to stay in Cuba and take over their country so I don't have to pay for them. And if they keep coming here, Castro will never be overthrown. Ever. And the best thing the United States of America could do to get rid of all of the problems in the Caribbean is to overthrow Fidel Castro. And the only way to overthrow Fidel Castro is to say no to any more Cuban refugees. If they are unhappy with their country, force them to stay there and change the system. Not come to Miami and live off of my tax money and charities of churches and telethons. I'm getting fed up, friends. We're at 25,000 Cuban refugees in Miami and counting. We're at 70,000 so far and counting, and there are still hundreds of boats in Muriel. And the resettlement program has been a sham. And if you don't believe that, check and see how many people have been moved out of Eglin Air Force Base in the Panhandle. We'll take a break and we'll be right back on W News Miami. Let me tell you about my friends at Haber's. My friends at Haber's are overstocked. They are jammed at all the stores because they have closed their Sunrise store, and all of the goods and materials, the fine quality merchandise for Milady, has gone to the other 8 Haber stores. And so Jack and Irving Haber have determined that they have got to move that good quality merchandise out, and they are charging $5, $10, and $15 for items at unbelievable prices. Everything is on sale at all 8 Haber stores, from Fort Lauderdale to West Palm Beach. Dresses, tops, skirts, pants, gowns, blouses, shirts. These are the same blouses, tops, skirts, pants, dresses, etc. that you would find at the finer stores on 5th Avenue in Midtown Manhattan. That's right. Check the labels if you don't believe that. They must reduce their inventory in all 8 stores. Everything is on sale at all the stores. At least 20% off, nothing excluded, and almost half of the entire stock in all stores is reduced by half, 50%. Haber's. Haber's is for her.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm from West Palm.
What do you want, an award?
Pardon me?
What do you want, an award?
No, please don't do that to me. I'm a truck driver, and I listen from 7 o'clock in the morning till 5:30, 6 o'clock at night. And this is the first time the rain delayed my route, so I finally got home in the afternoon where I could make a call to you.
Okay.
Okay. Number one is, I think it was Tuesday that I heard your mayor down there on one of the stations up here had an interview, a live interview over the telephone. And he was supposed to make comments, or they interviewed him about the riot situation. And then he ran about 30 seconds about the riot conversation, and then he changed the riot thing to the Cuban situation, and went on from there. And finally, they finally hung up on him. They said, "Well, we're out of time in this." And can I mention the station? The radio station?
Sure.
Okay, it was WJNO.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And my wife listened to it here at the house. For some reason, we cannot pick up your radio station in my home here, where I'm at right now.
and she was listening to the old news station here. We listen to nothing on the radio but the old news stations, and my truck I can pick up your station. So that's what I listen to. And then when I come home, she was telling me about this. And she said, Mayor Foray, she said, he was terrible. He said 30 seconds, he made a statement, blah, 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 about the riot situation, and all of a sudden he changed the subject to the Cuban. And he was in favor of everything.
Well, that's where his real interest lies. He wants to serve one specific ethnic group in the community, sir. He did condescend to speak English during the interview, didn't he?
Oh, most certainly, most certainly.
Wonderful.
But my point of it is, he got so far into the Cuban situation that the guy that he was talking to finally had to break the interview off, because the man realized what was happening.
Okay.
And he changed the
You mean Commandante Maurice wanted to pass on some propaganda up there in West Palm?
Certainly, most certainly. And I listen. I go to work at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I get off at 4:30 to 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And I can't pick you up till about 7, because some station, I think from over in the islands, breaks you up. See? And then I'll pick you up about 7 o'clock in the morning. I listen to the end.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much for your call.
Wait
Thank
a
you.
minute,
Good to hear from you.
Can
Thank
I say
you.
one more thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Quickly.
About that woman that called 3 calls ago that was anti-American. God bless her. She ought to be in Cuba.
Thank you very much, sir. Stan Major.
Yes, I've been sitting here just before this last man and the commercials. Everything you said, I'm alone home, and I kept saying, right. Everything you said, you saved my breath for me. Like, you probably saw the Morning Herald, the letters to the editor.
Yeah.
Where it gave your station a good...
I read it at the outset of the program.
Oh, well, good. And also, how did you like Warren's Miami See It like a... And then up on top, real small black native?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I agreed with everything you said.
Okay, thank you. Nice to hear from you, ma'am. Hello?
Hello, Mr. Major.
Yeah.
How are you, sir? I'd like to discuss something reasonably with you. I am a Miami-Dade community college student, and I agree on some of your points of view, and some I don't, but I respect your opinion. Now, sir, I understand $21 million is an awful lot of money. Do you believe that that is completely and totally wasted?
Yep.
You do? Okay. Sir, do you believe, I myself am Cuban. I came from a very early age, and I always thought to think of myself as 100% American. I'm very proud of my Cuban heritage, and even though I have no family coming in, I feel for these persons because of knowing of what they've gone through, knowing the agony.
Yes, sir. I know all the sympathy stories. I've seen all the pictures in the paper of the tears. And believe me, I have been in places that are so much worse than Cuba, you wouldn't believe it. Now, what are we supposed to do? Are we supposed to take the Cambodians in who have been dying and living outside their country in Thailand, who are starving? Are we to take in all the peoples of the world? No, we're simply to take in one specific group. One specific country seems to be able to flout the immigration laws in the face of each and every citizen of this country, including you. And that country is Cuba. One despot can determine our immigration policies, and that despot is Fidel Castro. We are a puppet on Mr. Castro's strings. I don't like it, and I'm sorry that you like it and go along with it.
Do you think that the Cubans have hurt the American economy that much?
That has nothing to do with whether or not 70,000 unhappy Cubans could cause a revolution in Cuba. That's the key question.
If these 25,000 Cubans coming in would help and make the American economy prosper.
Now let's say if these 25,000 Cubans coming in would stay in Cuba and foment a revolution, then the United States of America, my friend, would be much better off. a few of the Cubans coming in would not make as much money in their lifetime because they would have to store it over in Havana and in other places in Cuba. But I do not believe that we should open our arms up and accept all of the Cubans that Fidel Castro wants to get rid of. Thank you very much for your call. Stan Major.
Hello?
Yes.
Stan?
Yeah.
First, I would like to say I wish the station had a recording of the Hallelujah Chorus, and if they would play it in your honor, I would give you a standing ovation.
I'd rather that we had something like the national anthem with the words to it so these Cubans could learn it.
Would you let me share something that has disturbed me no end? I'm a widow on Social Security. I'm a senior citizen. And last year I had a little part-time job 2 days a week, and I earned like approximately $285 and a few cents over what the allowance was for retired people and for senior citizens. Anyway, out of each paycheck that I get from my husband's Social Security as a widow, they're taking $80 a month. Now, this would buy my groceries for me. And when I stand on ceremony, I'm not resentful of anyone who is in need, but then, as you say, they're taking away from us, and I was born and reared in this country.
I am becoming resentful, ma'am. I'm becoming resentful because I think these Cubans and the Cuban exiles who live here aren't the least bit concerned about the millions of dollars coming out of the federal treasury.
To get off the boat. And
I am becoming resentful, ma'am.
They get more when they come off the boat than I get, and I have worked and lived here all my life.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm an old lady.
All right. Thank you very much for your call. Stan Major.
Yes, good afternoon, Stan. First-time caller. I'd like to make a comment to all of my fellow Americans out there, whatever country they're from. I'm retired from the U.S. Coast Guard, and first of all, I'm feeling sorry for all of my old Coast Guard buddies down there in the Straits of Florida working their butts off. Second of all, when I was in Vietnam, I found out one of the problems that that country had, Southeast Asia in particular, just in the country of South Vietnam alone, they spoke 4 major dialects of the Vietnamese language, and those people in Vietnam that lived along the coast could not understand nor communicate, and I emphasize communicate, with the people that lived in the mountain area of Vietnam. And how these people in this country figure we made a strong nation that we have today on 20 different languages from 20 different foreign countries, they're nuts. We made it on the English language, and everybody in this country that is successful today either did it through education or they stole the money or they smuggled drugs or whatever. But most of us made our money today with education. You know, in real estate, the prime rule is location, location, location. Well, today, if you want to make money in this country, it's education, education, education.
I don't agree with that, sir.
You don't?
No. I think there are large numbers of people who have a very excellent education who are in some way not achieving the status that they might have achieved, let's say, 10 or 15 or 20 years ago with a similar education. I think higher education, to a certain extent, is too glorified. There are too many degrees being handed out, too many doctorates, far too many master's degrees, far too many masters. Doesn't take much to get a master's degree anymore. And I think the quality of higher education is lower now than it ever has been in my lifetime.
Well, I can understand what you're saying there.
And costs more, of course.
Yeah, my point on the whole thing is that the people that are here from Cuba, the people that speak the so-called black English and so forth, my only advice to them, and I emphasize strongly, is learn the English language so you can get ahead in this country.
Okay, thank you very much for your call. Thank you. Take another break at 3:30 on The Nice Guy on the Radio. Stan Major on W News, Miami.
There's one thing, what is wrong in this country, and, the American people doesn't talk too much about it. The reason and the contribution to inflation, you must realize that the minimum salary is, $3.10 an hour, you know what I mean? And, like myself, I gotta pay, $2.80 on rent, I gotta pay my insurance and everything, and at least, you got to have the minimum salary in this country at least $5 an hour, so that the buying power in the workers is enough, because the workers, they don't have too much money to pay. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And this thing about the Cubans, there's no question about it that it costs too much money. But the reason this country has so much inflation is they spent billions of dollars to Russia. And, Jimmy Carter's going to spend, $75 million to, what this guy, Nicaragua, and all that. And there are trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars that the United States has spent to, I guess, not only to its friends, but also to its enemies. And those are taxpayers' money, too. And the American people, they never received that amount of money.
Well, let's talk about Nicaragua then.
Right.
Do you like Fidel Castro?
No.
Well, do you like Fidel Castro's influence in Nicaragua?
No.
Well, do you know that if we turned our back on Nicaragua, that he would take over?
Oh, sure, of course, but...
Well, then don't you favor United States aid to Nicaragua?
Yes, if Nicaragua was an ally. But you see, the problem is that the Soviet Union does not spend nothing to his friends. It's always the United States, like, Jimmy Carter trying to Fidel Castro.
With regard to the two people from Quebec who decided they wanted to leave that area because of the language problem when they get off the plane at Miami International, as I have often got off a plane here and felt that I was no longer in the United States of America. All I hear is Spanish out at Miami Airport, and I've stated that before. And that's what Jim Moran evidently has run into, because that was the gist of his cartoon yesterday, the finest cartoon that he's done since he joined the Herald. Congratulations, Jimmy. Keep up the good work. Dividing the community, Jim. You're divisive. Hello?
Hey, Stan.
Uh-huh.
Slow down your voice a little bit, will you, honey? Listen, I want to tell you something. Firstly, my bras are to you and the whole gang of you all.
Yeah, I don't want to.
Wait a minute, no.
You want to talk about an issue, talk about an issue, all right?
I want to ask you one thing. What do they mean by Anglo?
I haven't any idea, ma'am. I haven't the slightest idea. Don't call in here with kudos or criticism. I'd rather take criticism than kudos. Hello?
Yes, Mr. Major.
Yes.
Forgive me, I'm not complimenting.
Good. I'm tired of it.
Right. But what this man just said, I think it'd be a very good idea if they dumped 70,000 Cubans right in the middle of Havana and downtown Miami, and just let them have their problem with 70,000 Cubans. And also to let these people talk, so the rest of us who really don't know can know what they stand for, and it's really can be frightening. But now, are these Cubans out in the Everglades still practicing with their machine guns and guns?
No, I think that was a one-time publicity thing.
Because what I'm concerned about is the wildlife out there. The Audubon Society is always saying, people shouldn't go out there on hunting and everything else to kill, because they're killing wildlife. And do you know what damage can be done with hand grenades and machine guns?
Well, I wouldn't be the least bit concerned about that if I was convinced that they were for real and that they would end up in the Sierra Madre Mountains. Again, you're not allowing me to talk, ma'am. Thank you very much for your call. You folks have got to get used to the fact that when I'm talking, you cannot talk. You understand? As I was trying to say, if the Cuban commandos who were at one time training in the Everglades, if they were for real, if they were going to sneak in to Cuba to start a counter-revolution, more power to them. It's about damn time. But I don't think they're for real. I think it was a publicity gimmick. Stan Major.
Hello, Stan.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I wonder if there's any way that if we could sign that petition. I only feel frustrated because I live in Broward and I wouldn't be able to sign it. I guess my signature wouldn't mean anything, would it, if they tried to recall?
No, it has to be the city of Miami. It's the area in which the mayor serves.
Yeah, because somebody mentioned something about Lone Star, and I know a little bit about that. I spent 2 hours in an interview out there trying to get a job, and then...
well, I don't want to get into that. That's a private matter between you and that company. Hello?
Mr. Major?
I am.
The people that call in, the Cuban citizens that say they have become citizens of the United States, I'm sure that when they take an oath, that they agree to uphold the laws of the United States. And yet I notice that they go to Washington and ask the president for help, but yet when the president asks them to stop a flotilla, they continue to break the law. And I think if they are United States citizens, they ought to obey the law like everyone else does.
Well, the United States Coast Guard, ma'am, has set up a tremendous radar screening situation to stop the exiles boats from leaving between Miami and Key West. And if they didn't have that, you better believe those boats would be on their way back to Mario.
Yes, sir, that's what I'm talking about.
That's how much they want to obey the law here.
I guess, sir. I think it's a shame that we have to patrol our own shores to keep people who claim they're United States citizens to keep a watch.
And by the way, folks, if you don't think that's costing U.S. taxpayers money, I got news for you.
Oh, yes, sir. I know it is. And as a taxpayer, this is my complaint, along with the bilingualism.
Thank you very much for your call. Thank you. Hello?
Hello?
Yes?
Mr. Mason?
Yeah?
I'm sorry to bother you. I just wanted to make a point on the Cuban issues.
Uh-huh.
Okay, can I ask you something? Does this station here that televises this discussion every day have something against Cuban people?
Nothing, sir.
No, I'm just making a point. I hope you don't make up, don't hang up on me. I just wanted to know because I hear, a lot of people calling and, just saying that why there's so many Cubans in Miami. And, I feel I'm Cuban. I've been in this country 24 years.
You've been here 24 years and you're still Cuban. How about that, folks?
I feel myself Cuban.
Are you a Cuban citizen?
I'm an American citizen.
Oh, you're an American citizen.
I'm an American citizen.
Ah, I see.
I feel that the Cuban people here in Miami too are paying the taxes too. Don't you think so that way too?
Well, sure.
That that we're.
Well, let's just bring a couple of million over and settle them down right in Little Havana, then, sir. That we'll have more tax money from.
I'm against the flotillas myself. I'll be honest with you. A lot of people drowning and all that, but don't you think that Cuban people have the same thing to come to this country as other people do?
No.
You don't feel? Why don't you feel that way?
Because other people can't come to this country, sir. That's why.
Oh, is that how
it's very difficult for them to come to this country.
But don't you feel too that the Cubans?
And if you don't believe that, try to get one of your Irish ancestors into the country.
I understand. I know it's hard to.
Do you really understand the immigration problems we have, sir?
I understand. I've been in this country a long time, to know what's going on in this country too. Okay, but it's just the point that I'm getting is. Why do they talk so bad about Cuban people?
Well, why do you feel that so many Cubans should be admitted to our shores when we can't admit Europeans, sir? Let me ask that question.
It's not the point of not admitting Europeans.
Sir,
hello?
Do you think that Cubans are something special?
No, we're not special. Human beings. Don't you think that?
Well, don't you think somebody from Sweden is as much a human being as a Cuban?
They should be allowed in this country. Well, the President of the United States will have wanted people in this country, not us. But we pay for the people. We pay taxes for the people that are coming to this country too. Don't you feel that way too?
We're just going around in circles.
No, I'm not going around in circles.
Well, you've said that 3 times, and that's called going around in circles in English.
Don't go around in circles. Just let me ask you one more question. What do you have against Cuban people?
I don't have anything against Cuban people.
But I've been hearing your program for the last...
I just don't believe that we should open our door and let unlimited Cubans come into Miami. That's all.
Can you answer that question for me?
I just answered it, okay?
Oh, you just did?
Thank you very much for your call. Stan Major.
Good afternoon. I'd like to go back a couple hours. I was riding in my car and I couldn't get you before. You mentioned about this extra penny in the sales tax proposed for Dade, Broward, and you thought it might be unconstitutional. They word that law that it only applies to counties with 850,000 population or more. That makes it constitutional. New York State's been doing this for years for laws especially applying to New York City. They say any city over 5 million can avail themselves.
Okay.
And on the sales tax, as a matter of fact, Duval County tried to get in on it with a population of 550, and they said, no, if it's got to go back to the committee, it'll die. Leave it at 850. It would be constitutional.
Okay, thank you very much for your call and your information. Stan Major.
Hello, Mr. Major. This is the first time I've been able to get through to you. I think these last few calls were staged by your enemies. I want your opinion, if you'll answer me. Do you think that the Russians put up this to cause panic and anarchy here?
I think that everything that Fidel Castro does is dictated from the Kremlin because they're paying him $8 million a day, ma'am. Okay? I've got to take some commercial breaks. We'll be right back on the Stan Major program, Part 1. This evening on Part 2, from 6 until 7 o'clock, my guest will be Dr. Saul Gordon, who is an authority on adolescent sexuality. And we will then have baseball for you at 7:15, Neil Rogers and Bob Berger, and the beginning of the regionals, the NC2A regionals from Marklight Stadium, the University of Miami against Southern Alabama.
Well, it's funny you should mention Sweden. My parents came from Sweden. They waited 7 years to get in here. The first thing they did was apply for their citizenship, went to school at night, worked like crazy for all their lives until the day they passed away. They told me and the rest of my family this is the greatest place in the world. And from the time they got their citizenship papers, they considered themselves and called themselves Americans. Never even Swedish Americans, just Americans. They were that proud of it. Secondly of all, the figure has topped 70,000 as of today on the number of Cubans that have come in on the flotilla.
Yes, ma'am.
And as far as them contributing taxes, I've lived in Dade County for 30 years, and our taxes went to expend for all this bilingual program. It went for the refugee checks. It went for refugee relief. It went to rebuild parts of Havana and to take care of the elderly and all the other things. So as far as contributing, they are also taking, not only contributing. Thirdly of all, I have a perfect solution as to, if you really want an outcry and you want the president to know exactly how we feel, they ought to, everybody, ought to get on top of everybody and say, let's have a Cuban center in Plains, Georgia, and I'm sure that we would stop the flotilla tomorrow.
Okay, ma'am, thank you very much. Hello?
Hello?
Yeah.
Yes, this is the first time I talked to you. I've talked to Al before, but I wanted to make two comments. One is fighting within Cuba, and then the language problem that we have here, and how maybe come up with some kind of solution to the problem. I'm an American. I came to this country when I was 7 years old, and what I wanted to say is I lived in Illinois, and we moved to California, and now we moved over here. But when we went to Illinois, I found out that you went to little stores or even big stores, and you still find in those problems, not now, but then, when we came to this country, you went to an Italian store or an Italian neighborhood, and they spoke Italian. You went to a Polish neighborhood, and there it was. And now, you go back to that same place, the same area, and they all speak English. Okay? And I went in San Francisco, where we just moved from. I lived there for 6 years, me and my wife. You find that you have the little centralized areas of, like, Chinese. And in most applications and most documents in California, especially up northern California, you'll find things in Chinese, English, and in Spanish. Okay? But as far as the problem we have here, I can only say that I can see it being solved with a matter of time as far as just people, years going by is where people, normally we're having a lot of young people as myself. Me and my wife talk English at home and Spanish, but mostly English because we feel more comfortable. I have most of my education here in this country. I was in Vietnam, and I've been called by my fellow people Americanized.
Okay, I'm out of time. Thank you very much for your call. Tom Schaefer is here. We'll see you at 6 on Stan Major Part 2 on W News, Miami.